I had always thought the small conflicts in their house were just ordinary squabbles between kids, until the day I pushed open their living room door and saw how favoritism could spoil one child while forcing another into silence. Why do you always take his side? He's not even your kid. That was the first thing James threw onto the couch when I walked in. He was sitting on the carpet, still holding a snapped controller cable, his voice sharp like glass scraping. Jack stood not far away, next to the dining table, spine straight, hands pressed to his sides. When he saw me enter, his eyes loosened for a brief moment, but he didn't move, didn't say a word. I noticed a faint red mark on his neck, fresh. The TV was on but muted. Plastic shards were scattered across the floor, and I recognized the broken pieces immediately, the casing of the gaming consoles I had bought for each of them. The fragments were in two piles, one mostly intact, the other crushed beyond recognition. Jack's console was the latter. You came just in time. My older brother stood at the kitchen doorway, face tight, as if he'd rehearsed his line beforehand. Jack broke James's stuff and tried to deny it. He's been getting more and more out of hand. James rolled his eyes and kicked the broken pieces farther away, as if to remind me the evidence was right there. Jack didn't explain. He didn't even look at the fragments. The air felt frozen, sharp as shards drifting through the room. I closed the door behind me, the sound unusually crisp in that overly decorated suburban house. Who wants to speak first? I asked. James answered immediately, he's jealous of my new game. He smashed my console. Said something about it being unfair. He spoke while inching away, like I might snatch the other console from his hands. My brother's wife, Karen, came down the stairs with a mug of herbal tea. She walked slowly, almost like she had waited for the most dramatic moment to appear. When I came down, that's how it was, she said as she set the cup down. Jack was standing there, and James's console was already broken. No need for explanations. I noticed the way she looked at Jack. It wasn't anger. It was disdain. The kind of disdain that comes from long-nurtured bias, smooth, natural, effortless. Jack's hands trembled slightly, then stopped. His lips were tight, his cheeks pale. He wasn't emotionless, he was holding everything down with force. Jack, I said gently, do you want to say it again? He finally lifted his head. It wasn't me. James frowned, surprised Jack would still insist on this in front of me. Stop pretending, you freak, James snapped, dropping the controller so it clattered on the floor. You just hate that my parents give me better stuff. Karen interjected, all right, James, don't use bad language. But her tone wasn't scolding, more like going through the motions. In that moment, I realized my arrival wasn't unexpected. They were already prepared to pin everything on Jack. I pointed at the shards. Who broke it? James didn't hesitate. He wanted my console because he was jealous. He tried to grab it and smashed it. I turned to Jack. Did you touch it? He shook his head. Karen scrolled on her phone. I don't want to talk about this anymore. This kid has issues. He always damages other people's things. My brother stayed silent. He didn't look at me or either of his sons. His eyes were glued to the shards on the floor, as if that was all the truth he needed. Do you believe that? I asked him. He pressed his lips together, breathing audible. I don't know. But James wouldn't just destroy something for no reason. Jack's fingers curled. James lifted his chin triumphantly. Yeah, why would I break my own console? I gave a soft laugh, quiet, but sharp enough to silence the room. Oh, you definitely had a reason, I said. James stiffened. What do you mean? I walked to the TV, bent down, and picked up a small plastic component from the floor. It was heavier than a normal casing piece. You forgot this? I asked. James froze. Jack stared, suddenly realizing what I was doing. I held the piece up for everyone to see. This is from the console I bought both of you. But this piece only comes loose when you take out the memory card. I looked at James, voice calm. Did you swap the memory card? Karen frowned. The memory card? What does? I cut her off. Who has their save file on that card? For the first time, panic flickered across James's face. His eyes darted toward the intact console, too quickly to hide. My brother finally looked up. James, why'd you switch the card? James swallowed hard. I pressed further. You wanted Jack's saved game, didn't you? You didn't want to start over, so you moved his save file to your console. Then you broke your own so your parents would blame him. Silence. Only the flickering white light from the TV moved, reflecting James's panic. Jack held his breath. I didn't. You can't accuse me. James shouted, voice cracking. Karen immediately shielded him. Enough. What are you trying to do? You're not even his parent. I met her eyes. No, I'm not. But you don't ask what actually happened. My brother rubbed his forehead. James. Tell me if you touched the card. James's lips trembled. He looked to Karen for protection. She stepped in front of him. He's 8. He doesn't understand whatever card you're talking about. You can't use adult logic to interrogate him. I inhaled slowly. Karen, didn't you tell me last week that James is very smart, that he can assemble those advanced Lego mechanic sets? That he's more skilled than kids his age? She froze. I was using her own words against her, and she knew it. My brother spoke again. James, you switched the card, didn't you? James's mouth tightened. His hands disappeared behind Karen. Karen lifted her chin. And what about Jack's neck? Are we going to ignore that? You think James did that to him? How do you explain that mark? Her tone was forceful, as if she had finally found ground to stand on. Jack flinched, fingers brushing the red mark. I didn't turn to him, I looked at Karen. Do you know what kind of mark that is? She huffed. Don't tell me you're going to say he did it to himself. I shook my head. It's from someone trying to push him away. Kid's strength isn't controlled, the pressure points become uneven. That's why the mark looks irregular. Karen opened her mouth but had nothing to say. You forget I've taught emergency response courses? I asked softly. She froze. My brother looked up too, he remembered. I had volunteered for years with local firefighters and schools. I'm not clearing Jack for nothing, I said. But I know that, I saw them like that doesn't always mean what you think. James suddenly yelled. He did choke me. I couldn't breathe. Why won't you believe me? His voice cracked again, raw with panic. Jack's whole body tightened at those words. I stepped toward Jack. His breathing went shallow. Come on, I said gently. Let's step outside for a moment. Let your parents talk to your brother. Jack hesitated, worried about something, but when I nodded, he walked toward the door. James called after him, voice sharp and piercing, meant to be heard. See? You're running away because you're guilty. You're scared. Jack froze. I turned to James. Do you want him to stay? James swallowed, then stiffly said, stop defending him. My brother finally snapped, James. Come to the study. For the first time, it was a command he couldn't avoid. James backed away, but Karen steadied him. Go on. It'll be fine. The three of them went upstairs. James kept glancing back at Jack, fear mixed with resentment. The living room emptied, leaving only me and Jack. He stood by the door, shoes still off. I walked over and handed him his hat. Come on. Let's get some air. Jack nodded and followed me outside. The wind was cold. The trees rattled against each other like quiet knocks. Jack shoved his hands into his pockets, shoulders trembling. I leaned against the railing. Want to tell me anything? He shook his head. After a few seconds, he suddenly asked. Am I a problem? The question stunned me. It was so soft, like he had asked himself 1,000 times and never said it aloud. No, I said. You're not a problem. Jack's eyes were red, but he didn't cry. He just lowered his chin into his collar. If I weren't home, would my brother not act like this? Something twisted in my chest. I crouched down to his eye level. Jack, have you ever thought, your brother isn't like this because you're there? He looked at me, confused. But because, I said quietly, no one ever stopped him from becoming this way. Jack's breath hitched. In that moment, I realized he wasn't just a child hurt by favoritism, he was a kid forced to carry responsibilities he should never have had. Even his brother's behavior felt like something he blamed himself for. Remember your birthday last year, I said softly, when your brother grabbed your gift? Jack blinked in confusion, then nodded. What did your parents say? He froze for a moment, then whispered, they said he's young, that I'm 12, so I should let him. But he was the one who took your things, I reminded him. And you were the one punished. Jack didn't respond. His head turned slightly, like he was replaying it all. And earlier, 3rd grade, I continued, when the teacher called home because your brother stole your lunch, and you spilled something on his jacket. Jack stared at me. How do you know about that? I went to your school, I said. That day you came to my office and stayed all afternoon, saying your stomach hurt. I wondered why you didn't want to go home. He went silent, eyes clouded with old wounds. I didn't push. I let the cold wind calm him. After a while, I said, Jack, do you know why I came today? He shook his head. Not because the console broke, I said. But because I've been watching you for a long time. He looked up. You're always the quiet one. Before you do anything, you have to check everyone's mood first. You take care of everyone, but no one takes care of you. I paused. You think I never noticed? Jack's mouth trembled. You know, I said, I was just like you when I was a kid. His eyes widened, caught off guard. I'm 2 years younger than your father. You probably don't know, he was always the golden child. Good grades, well liked, the kid every adult praised. Every time I messed up, I heard, look at your brother. Jack listened quietly. It hurts, I said. I know. Wind rustled the branches like a sigh. But eventually I realized something, I continued, looking at the house. If you don't stand up for yourself at least once, no one will stand up for you. Jack's fingers gripped his coat tight. I rested a hand on his shoulder. Do you know why you called me today? He didn't answer. Because deep down, I said gently, you already know that in your house, no one will speak the truth for you. His breath faltered. I didn't push him to talk. Instead, I said softly, since you were 7, I've noticed. When your brother cries, you get yelled at. When he breaks something, you get blamed. Whatever he says, your parents believe. Jack's eyes slowly filled with tears. You're not clueless, I said. You're just used to enduring. He tried hard not to cry, lips pressed tight. You know how I can see it? I squeezed his shoulder lightly. Because I used to be just like you. Jack lifted his head again. I know what it feels like to be a kid ignored at home. That kind of pressure from your own family is worse than anything outside, I said. But I want you to remember, you're not alone. At that moment, the weight Jack had been carrying for so long finally seemed to find something it could lean on. I continued, you don't have to explain everything right now. Just know that starting today, you're no longer on your own. Jack took a deep breath and buried his face in his sleeves. I let him calm down slowly until his breathing became steady. Just then, the door opened. My older brother stood at the doorway, his face darker than before. He looked at me, his voice hoarse. Can you come inside for a minute? I knew very well, this was the moment when all the cracks built up over the years finally split open. I patted Jack's shoulder. Come on, we're going in together. We walked back into the house. The air felt colder, like someone had just been arguing inside. Karen sat on the sofa, her face filled with discontent, but her eyes were evasive. James was nowhere to be seen, he'd probably been sent back to his room. My brother stood by the TV cabinet, holding onto it as though he needed strength just to stay standing. He looked at me. James said earlier. He paused for a few seconds. He said, he's the one who switched the game card. Karen immediately objected, he was forced. You shouldn't have pressured him. My brother cut her off. Karen, he said he broke it. He said he was jealous because Jack always looked so happy. Karen shot up from the sofa. He's only 8. He doesn't even know what jealousy is. My brother exhaled, exhausted. But he knows how to lie. He knows how to make Jack take the blame. The room fell into a new, heavy silence. I knew this storm was only beginning. And I also knew I had to pull away everything they'd been covering up, piece by piece, and drag the whole truth into the light. My brother stood in the center of the living room, one hand gripping the cabinet like he could barely keep himself upright. Jack stood beside me, his back straight, but his hands clenched tightly inside his sleeves. Karen's breathing was fast and uneven, like she was ready to explode at any second. Nothing in the room had moved, but the air was clearly no longer the same. What you said just now, my brother swallowed, I really didn't notice before. Karen's voice trembled, what are you implying? That I didn't educate James properly? My brother didn't answer. I broke the silence. I want to ask one question first. Karen shot me a cold look. What now? My voice stayed calm. When you saw the red marks on Jack's neck earlier, what was your first reaction? Karen frowned. What kind of question is that? It's simple, I said. When you saw the marks, your first thought was that Jack must have been the aggressor, wasn't it? Karen scoffed. Of course. You didn't see how he was acting today. He rushed at James and choked him, You weren't there. Jack's breathing faltered. I gently pressed his shoulder, signaling that he didn't need to explain yet. And when you saw James? I asked. He was terrified, Karen replied immediately. I nodded. So a child with no injuries was crying, and the child with marks on his neck was silent, and you immediately decided who was at fault. Karen waved impatiently. Stop twisting things. I'm telling you exactly what I saw. You're telling me what you wanted to see, I said. Karen's expression twitched. Don't make it sound so ugly. The truth is ugly, my brother murmured, or we wouldn't all be here. Karen turned on him, eyes widening. You don't trust your own wife. Again, he didn't answer. He looked at me instead. You said you've seen situations like this many times. Can you explain it clearly? I nodded. I can. But before that, I want someone else to listen. I took out my phone and opened a contact. Karen sneered. Who are you calling now? Another witness? Not a witness, I said. A teacher. The phone rang for a few seconds before a gentle female voice answered, Hello, this is Stevens Elementary School. I put it on speaker. Hi, I'm Jack's uncle. His homeroom teacher mentioned before that if the family agreed, she could send me the records from those incidents. Is now a good time? The teacher recognized me quickly. Yes, of course. I remember you came to discuss Jack's situation. Can you receive email right now? Karen's face shifted dramatically. Why did you go to his school? Jack lowered his head. I noticed Jack often hid in my office when I visited, so I went to find out what was going on, I said calmly. The teacher mentioned he'd been falsely accused several times. Karen let out a cold laugh. Kids bickering is now evidence. Are you trying to destroy an 8-year-old? I ignored her. Teacher, could you send the record from last year? Any of my emails is fine. Sure, she said. I'll send it now. I hung up. Within 10 seconds, my phone buzzed. I opened the email and placed it on the coffee table. What are you trying to do? Karen's voice started shaking. I didn't answer. I pushed the file forward so she could see it. On it were clearly written. 3 school incidents. Each time James provoked first. Each time James cried. Each time Jack was punished. Each time the teacher later discovered James had lied. Karen's face froze. My brother took a deep breath, like someone had finally ripped away the blindfold over his eyes. He looked at me. You knew. Not everything, I said. But I knew Jack wasn't being blamed for the first time. Karen's voice became dry. A teacher's words count as evidence to you. Kids copy each other, you want to declare James abnormal based on that? I sat down by the coffee table and laid out all the scattered clues in front of her. It's not just the teacher's records, I said. There's also that birthday video where he took Jack's present, you edited that part out before posting it online. I saw the original. Karen froze. And the time he pushed Jack into the cabinet at school. Jack's head split open, but James cried the loudest. I'm the one who took Jack to urgent care. I paid for it. Jack jerked his head upward. Karen stumbled back. That's impossible. You couldn't have. And, I continued, last Christmas you said Jack broke your vase and made him kneel at the stairs. But that vase was knocked over when James hit the table with his toy. My brother stared. The vase, was James too. Karen's voice cracked. How do you know that? There was camera footage, I said. Her face drained of color. I reviewed your home security, I added. Did you forget? I'm the one who installed the new system for you before your trip. I have admin access. Karen's eyes widened. You spied on us? No, I said. I checked the footage only after Jack was punished, because your brother called me. I suggested you look at it that day. You both said it wasn't necessary. Karen pointed at me, her hand trembling. You're trying to tear our family apart. I don't have to, I said. It already is. Karen stepped closer, her voice sharp and hysterical. You have no right to interfere in how we raise our kids. You're not his parent. No, I'm not his parent, I said quietly. But I'm Jack's only support. Jack trembled beside me. I continued, no one here speaks for him. So I have to. Karen's voice rose. So now you're judging us? No, I said. I'm telling you that your favoritism, indulgence, and neglect have pushed things to a point where they can't go on. My brother rubbed his face and looked toward the stairs. Where's James? Karen instantly blocked him. He's terrified, and you still want to interrogate him. For once, he needs to face things, my brother said, raising his voice for the first time. What will become of him if this continues? He's just a child. Karen shouted. You've used that line to shield him for 6 years, I said softly. Karen fell silent instantly. Just then, quiet footsteps came from upstairs. James stood at the top of the stairs, eyes swollen, hands gripping the railing. He looked at us like he was standing before an inescapable trial. My brother looked at him. James. Say it yourself. James glanced at his father, then at Karen, curling inward like a frightened animal. His voice shook, I didn't mean to. Karen rushed toward the stairs. Sweetie, come here, Mommy. James shoved her hand away. He pointed at Jack and screamed, breaking down, it's him. He made Mom and Dad stop looking at me. Why do you all help him? Why? Jack froze completely. My brother frowned. James, what are you talking about? James's breathing turned chaotic. Jack used to never fight back. He never said anything. You always scolded him. Why won't you scold him now? Karen panicked. Baby, stop, Mommy loves you. James screamed louder, you're all blaming me. You're all blaming me. Can't I do anything anymore? I just didn't want him to be happy. The room fell silent. I knew then, revenge didn't require me to be cruel. All I had to do was shine light into the places they hid things. My voice was steady as ice. James, tell us clearly. You smashed the console because you didn't want Jack to be happy. James nodded frantically, crying. He was having too much fun. I didn't like it. You were going to scold him. I knew you would. I just wanted him to get scolded. Karen's face turned paper white. Sweetie, what are you saying? How could you? James shook his head, screaming, you taught me. You always scold him. You said he was stupid, bad, disobedient. I thought if he got scolded, you'd like me. Karen stumbled back, nearly collapsing. My brother's face seemed to age years in a second. I walked toward the stairs and repeated James's words clearly for everyone to hear. He wasn't born this way. He's copying you. The room was deathly silent. James sobbed uncontrollably. Jack stood by the door, his small frame bearing the weight of this family's decade-long dysfunction. My brother finally looked at me, not angry, but devastated, shaken awake. What do I do? He asked, voice broken. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. Step 1, I said, take Jack out of here. Starting tonight, he stays with me. Karen screamed, you can't. My brother's voice was low but firm. Let him go with my brother. Karen stared at him. Have you lost your mind? Let him go, he repeated. Then he asked me, what's step 2? You face James yourself, I said. Go over everything that's happened. Make him understand that lies won't save him anymore. James curled up tighter on the stairwell. My brother nodded. Step 3, I continued, you're getting family counseling. Not for me, for the kids. Karen shouted, I refuse. My brother ignored her completely. We'll go. And from now on, I added, every incident gets checked. Every conflict gets reviewed. No favoritism. No excuses. James shook violently, clutching the railing. Lastly, I said, Jack will never be your scapegoat again. If you can't handle that, I'll get the community, the school, and child protective services involved. Karen's voice quivered. You're threatening us. No, I said. This is what you owe Jack. The house went silent. Cold air slipped through the door crack, stirring the debris on the floor like dust finally starting to settle. I reached out my hand and said gently to Jack, let's go. Jack hesitated a second, then took my hand. Just as we reached the doorway, James cried out from the stairs, trembling, Uncle, don't take Jack away. I don't want. His voice held real fear, not the fake kind he'd used so many times before. I turned and looked at this child twisted by years of misplaced love and indulgence. The one you need to fear isn't me, I said. James shook violently. It's everything you've done, I told him, and the fact that it's finally catching up to you. James hugged the railing, sobbing, I don't want to. I don't want to. Karen tried to approach him, but he pushed her away. He didn't call for his mom. The first person he cried for was me. That was the truest form of consequences, not some divine punishment, but a child realizing he could no longer hide behind his parents. Jack tugged my sleeve and whispered, "Let's go." I squeezed his hand and let him out of that house. When the door closed, all the crying, shouting, and chaos stayed behind. The wind was cold, but Jack's hand slowly grew warm. He asked, "How long can I stay?" I said, "As long as you need." Jack was quiet for a moment, then whispered, "Thank you." I ruffled his hair. "This isn't a favor. It's what you deserve." We headed toward the car together. Under the streetlight, Jack's shadow looked less fragile for the first time.